Hello, and welcome to the Pat Conroy Literary Center virtual open mic night. I'm your host for this evening, Melissa Whiteford St. Clair, and I bring greetings from the Pat Conroy Literary Center Executive Director, Jonathan Haupt. Welcome to tonight's readers, and a special welcome to our featured writer, poet Devreaux Baker. Pat Conroy Literary Center open mic nights are held monthly from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, alternating between virtual and in-person open mic nights, which are held at the Pat Conroy Literary Center in Beaufort, South Carolina. Our monthly open mic night is presented in partnership with the South Carolina Writers Association and live streamed through the Conroy Center's Facebook page. Upcoming open mic nights and featured writers. Again, our featured presenter tonight is poet Devreaux Baker, winner of the 2025 Willie Morris Award for Southern Poetry. Next month's open mic featured presenter is poet Emily Roscoe, author of Weather Inventions. Watch for future featured writer open mic announcements on the Pat Conroy Literary Center Facebook page and the newsletter. If you're not already a subscriber, I highly recommend that you do subscribe. Open mics feature short readings of 3 to 5 minutes by each writer in many genres. And tonight, we have a healthy lineup of readers. So again, welcome everyone, and let's get started. We'll do a round robin of readers. Then I will introduce and turn the mic over to Devreaux Baker. So first in the queue, we have Angelique Beasley, and next will be Niles. So Angelique, welcome, and the mic is yours.
Hi, how are you all? I hope you're all well and blessed. My name is Angelique Beasley, and I will be reading from my memoir, The Oil of Her Tears. The girl who remembered heaven. Before she learned her name, she knew the sound of angels. Before she was taught to pray, she wept in rhythms only heaven understood. She was born into a world that misunderstood her silence for softness. But even as a child, her tears carried thunder. I was born with eyes wide open, not just to light, but to frequency. I saw things others didn't and felt things that others dismissed. My earliest memories weren't just moments, they were markers, realms, vision, and whispers in the night. I didn't know then that I was a deep watchwoman. I only knew that I felt everything deeply and that my tears always came with purpose. My family called me sensitive. Some said I was dramatic, but I knew I was discerning, even as a little girl. I could feel the shift in the room, the weight of a lie, the ache behind a smile. I didn't have the words yet, but I had the oil. Chapter 1. A royal priesthood was born. Birth, mantle, ancestral legacy. January 8th, 1987, an angel was born on earth. The angel was me, the light of Ronnie and Michelle Brown, my parents, a carpenter and a top-level accountant, covenant in marriage, chosen to birth legacy through me. I didn't just arrive, I descended from royalty, from warfare, from covenant. I came from the late Scipio Kennedy, born in Gwynedd, raised in Scotland and the Colosseum Castle. Under the clan Kennedys, I carry the name, the mantle, and the fire. I also descended from the clan Camerons of Scotland, and South Carolina. My bloodline is layered with warriors, builders, and breakers. I am the great granddaughter of Margaret Coakley, the one and only first African American woman to work at Harvard University in her time. She was brilliant, bold, prophetic, and she married Gus Coakley, an architect whose legacy is carved into bridges in South Carolina. Further back, there's Abraham Coakley, a farmer, businessman married to Essie Mae Fields, who once owned the Wimby Farms of South Carolina. A quiet woman with power. A deeper still, Jenny Cameron, the first slave in my family line. She went from bondage to becoming the wife of an enslaver. Her story is layered in pain, paradox, and prophetic reversal. So when I say I was born into legacy, I mean I was wrapped in and mantled by it. But with legacy comes warfare, and God's been fighting since my birth. Before I was placed in a womb, I was appointed anointing by God, and the enemy knew it. He saw the priesthood, the spiritual inheritance, and he launched his attacks before I could even take my first breath.
Beautiful, Angelique. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much.
Niles, you are next, and Jackie, you are in the queue, and then Emily.
I was so caught up in Angelique's, I forgot I was next.
It's okay.
That was awesome.
Thank you so much.
Melissa, I have just two small flash pieces I'd like to read. The first one is titled The Choir. I sat in the middle seat of the third row in the choir loft in the early service on Sundays until we moved to the pews down front for the sermon. About a year before, someone had heard me singing along with the radio when I pulled into the parking lot at church and had suggested I might consider becoming a member of the choir, singing only in the early service since the 11 o'clock service was a praise and worship one with a band, a shift in church music compared to my childhood. Back then, the choir was stiff, wearing maroon robes, their voices the only thing moving to the imaginary cursive L the director drew over and over in the air. That choir also sang the hymns in the maroon hymnal, unless there was a special music at Easter or Christmas. Sometimes we could read the choir member faces and know whether they agreed or disagreed with what the minister said, heads bobbing like buoys in water, or pursed lips if he mentioned tithing. Today there is an associate minister who leads our choir, but he doesn't draw in the air, and there are no hymnals from which to sing. Everyone sings the same music. Someone in a hidden booth types onto the big movie screens, spelling errors and all, and most of the songs aren't hymns. The songs seem to be a hodgepodge of feel-good praise and worship, and many people throw their hands up into the air, palms open, as if some unseen God is reaching out and touching them, like the phone company used to do. Long gone are the maroon robes covering pantyhose, snags, worn shoes, or crooked ties below the shirt's top button. Now, women choir members might wear fancy flip-flops flashing a rainbow of sparkly toenail colors to the crowd, or worse, to the cameras to support the mission for the shut-ins and sinners at home. And if their long shirts don't cover it, viewers will catch glimpses of tights with paisley or checkered legs and thighs. No ties, no suits, no shiny angelic shoes can be found on men, for they have been transformed to jeans and shirts, some shirts hanging out with tennis shoes or slip-on loafers. The come as you are philosophy is alive and well, and one in which draws in more of a crowd who never like playing dress up at stiff churches. When I am situated on my pew, three from the front, the lead singers, come out for a special. All three of them formerly in local country singing groups that cut at least one CD at a recording studio downtown that cost them upfront money and a percentage of sales. They were country star wannabes and thought their sounds matched Johnny and June, Dolly and Porter, or George and Tammy. All had dreams of the Ryman and the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, but finally deferred those dreams after jobs, marriages, and children to singing for the Lord on Sundays. They didn't wear in-your-face rhinestones all over their clothes, but their outfits and cowboy boots were a level up from Come As You Are with Glit and Glimmer. They liked songs that allowed some showtime, twisting slower than Chubby Checker and moving an octave up or down and holding it there, the notes quivering and sending more hands up to heaven from the audience. If they were particularly on it, the crowd might even clap, or the audience could hear amens from old deacons in the back who'd been yelling out for generations. I used to be jealous of these lead singers because all I had to offer was a little blended harmony, and other choir members finally told me, honey, it ain't like school. We're all gifted in the eyes of the Lord. It had been my wake-up call, my subtle shove into the aisle to rededicate my life. I think my voice is even better now. Maybe I'll make it to Nashville.
Like that. Wonderful.
Melissa, one more. It's titled Nibble to Nothing. It's a newer piece. Both of those are newer pieces. And this is a flash nonfiction piece. So not a flash fiction. The other was fiction, of course. It's called Nibble to Nothing. We booked a fly fishing guide and met him at a store outside the Smoky Mountains National Park, jumped in his monster truck, drove up the mountain deep into the park, where guardrails were never installed, past the ghost town of Elkmont, and parked on a scenic view ramp by the little river. We put on waders, waterproof boots, and clipped trekking poles to our waist belts. The guide carried the rods, a pack of flies, and a net. The little river water levels were down. Smooth rocks and boulders were scattered everywhere, and we trudged through the ice-cold currents to find rapids spilling over rocks where the trout hid, waiting for the bugs that landed on water. We had quick instructions: swing the rod level and point it straight, not overhead with follow-through like tennis or baseball. We cast, getting corrected by the guide, more patient than a parent with a toddler. Our fly rod lines landed in wild redbud, dogwood, and maple trees, snagged rocks, and caught fallen leaves on banana yellow, lime green, and Santa red. The trout nibbled at our flies but didn't bite. We moved upstream to an area that looked more promising. I imagined bear, Bigfoot, wolves, or coyotes coming to drink, snagging us, dragging us up the mountain and eating us like burgers. Meandering through a river full of smooth rock covered with dark slime was more difficult than the first time I was drunk on moonshine, and I slipped, wobbled, and trailed behind my son and guide. When my boot became lodged between two rocks, I fell forward, my long-sleeve t-shirt getting soaked, but I jammed the trekking pole into the river bottom, pushed, and stood back up. I took a deep breath, visualized myself falling backwards, the rushing, powerful current holding me underneath, my body too weak to do a sit-up, like the football exercises I'd done 40 years ago, too weak to turn sideways. The clear and cold water gushed into my nose and mouth, me fighting for naught, and I lost consciousness, drowned, and hovered above the skittle-covered leaves, still clinging to trees. Saw my son and guide attempting to resuscitate my lifeless body. Hated my son had to watch me die this way, 35 years his senior, old and frail, gray hair matted to my head like wet leaves stuck to rocks. I'd never have been found if I had fished alone, but I would have been nibbled to nothing by fish and varmints. I'd postponed making a will, nothing was in order, and I'd left a mess for someone to straighten. I figured the tunnel for me might be a train, not a light and loving voice. Hey, Dad, are you coming? I almost fell forward again. He jerked my tether back, and this trip wouldn't be the one where nature snuffed me out. I wiggled my boot free and sloshed forward to the next rapids over rock to cast again and catch nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Niles. They were wonderful.
Thank you.
Dr. Jackie, you are next, then Emily, then Susan. So, Jackie, you have the mic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to shift a little and move us into poetry. And in fact, I have three pretty short poems, and two of them are about poetry, ars poetica, so to speak. The first one is a letter to the poem from the poet. Dear poem, you are bread, you are wine, you are water to thirst, you are sun on my face, you are waves washing ashore, you are black earth turned, you are lilacs in bloom, you are a quilt in winter, you are a live oak of shade in July, you are an exuberant embrace, you are a tender kiss, you are an unruly muse, you are puzzling line breaks, you are a sing-song rhyme scheme, a tedious syllable counting task. You are a clumsy metaphor. You are a graceful metaphor. You are the poem of my heart and dreams. A poem the poet writes to a poem is like pose, a dream within a dream.
Yes, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, this one it was written from a prompt, and it was simple, just to use the first line from another poet's poem. And so, of course, I used H.D. Hilda Doolittle, modern American poet, who is one of my favorites. And the line comes from May 1943, and I go from there. This poem is a palm tree. You may say this is no poem, but you do not know a poem like I know a poem, especially this poem. This poem is a palm tree, fronds slapping in the wind, singing the pine song that circles around us, a chorus for a November day in this windy autumn. The last time the wind was relentless from the river, it heralded a pandemic. Nothing could withstand the force of those winds, chanting to me in their swiftness, I am the winds of change, I am the winds of change, and so they were. And today, as winds circled around me, I knew the palm tree tall above me was my poem. Her fronds said words that spoke to me. Wind Woman said, my friend, I am here this time to give you strength. The palm sang verses to remind me she was roughened and layered, and she can and will withstand the relentless wind. Until one moment it dies down and all is calm. You may say this is no poem, but the palm tree spoke and became a poem in my hand. Thank you. This next one is I want to say it's a prose poem, but I'm not really sure exactly. But I've worked on it for a long, long time, and it's a difficult poem. But here it goes. The Ghost of Suzanne Valadon. It's only the first time that your own body startles you, she said, as she stepped, nearly transparent, from behind a Victorian screen to speak to the artist in a red shawl, that swirled around the curves of the woman's body in intricate paisley folds. Silken black fringe dropped in strands like ice. The artist pulled the heavy red cloth around her, studied her image in the mirror, paintbrush nearby. I know who you are, said the larger bodied woman as she saturated her brush with paint and the red shawl slipped from her shoulder. The mirror revealed her body plump with 60 years of living, as appealing as a bowl of fruit in the sunlight. How, she asked, will I paint the scars, veins, and capillaries as vivid as the red shawl? The artist questioned the ghost of Valadon, but she had vanished. Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing. And I love the prompt to use the first line of another poem. That is a great prompt. Yes.
Give it a try.
Emily, if you are ready, you are next, and then Susan. The mic is yours, Emily.
All right, thank you all being here. It's good to be back on this open mic after probably years. So thank you.
Hi, Emily.
Hi. I'm going to read two poems from the yearbook of the Poetry Society of South Carolina. This year's yearbook. And if you don't know their poetry competition, their competitions are open for their fall entries right now until Saturday. This is titled Sonogram Vision. Somehow moonlight in my womb catches you, breath on a mirror, breach, feet pressing craters on my bladder, wand on my wet belly sniffs out your right arm and right hand in a calligraphy of smoke. Behind my eyes appear two gibbous moons, the bright shoulders of a 10-year-old boy, arms missing, swallowed by bombs in Gaza. Arms grow out of heart cells, the wand holder says, as she searches for your left arm in so much gray rubble and finds a fist. Open, I pray. I must know how many fingers your heart has sprouted. 1, 2, 3, 4, and thumb. Wow, 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 calls your heart, echoing my thoughts at 150 beats per minute. Last month. Now, whoa, 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 whoa. Are you less in awe? Your skull and profile grins. Scratch my chin, mama. I hear the other. That's him. Scratch my chin, mama. I hear the other boy plead. Please, not now. I'm looking for my son's arm. Come to me when I'm alone, driving a road I know like the back of my teeth. When I'm at the cold light of a computer and can send money from my country that sends arms. Dry my eyes, mama. I can't. I'm a tree, branches full of tinsel bones, and my boy lying on his arm, a wick of dynamite lit from within. And we'll see if he'll let me read this other one. This last poem I'm going to read is titled Sunset. Bring your what the fucks, your black hoodies of what ifs, the wolf spider of your pulse carrying desires, thunderclouds of a childhood dirt bike, and the last Harley to slip you from your body's borders, spin you into sky. Your head a second sun, outshines ochres of the mesa. At such speed, thoughts cannot keep up, and stop to graze with bighorn sheep. And this mother of all fires, toss in love's kindling and unneutered joy. Exhale in front of this curious star, who comes closest to stare you in the eye and dissolve on a tongue of horizon. This medicine draws dark from light, blood from gold, a promise kept to heal. And that was for my cousin who died last year in a motorcycle accident. So, yeah, love and life and death. It's all there.
Beautiful.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Emily. Good to have you back.
Thanks.
Susan, you are next, and then I will go, and then we will get into our featured writer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is in letter form, and it's in a chapbook that I did years ago. And the name of it is Ray Charles's Stew. And if I go past 5 minutes, I'm just going to stop where I hit the 5 minutes mark. But it's a letter to my girlfriend, dear Miss Vic. Am I breaking up?
Yes.
Let's see.
A little bit, Susan,
Is it
yes.
any
I
better
wasn't sure if it was
I
mine
move
or.
any closer?
Maybe if you.
Am I still breaking up?
Sometimes if you turn your video off, you get
Yeah.
or something.
Can you all hear me? Yes, no.
That's better, I think.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, doke. So this is am I still unstable?
Still a little unstable.
Okay. And if I continue to be muffled, then I'll just pass the mic to the next person.
Okay.
Is this better? Okay.
It's good right now.
The mic to the next person. Okay. It's probably my but go ahead, whoever's next. Is it still
Susan,
good? No.
you want
Okay.
to try
I'm not going
turn
to
off your
chance it, so we'll
video?
just go ahead.
You want to try first to turn off your video and then.
Let me see if that will work. Okay. Is this better?
Okay. Oh, it might be better. Let's
Okay.
try.
Are you able to hear me?
Oh, yes.
Okay, let's do it this way. Okay. So this is a letter form and it's written to my girlfriend. And if I go past 5 minutes, I'll just stop wherever I go. But basically, it's the name of it is Ray Charles's Stool. Dear Miss Vic, if Ray Charles died tomorrow, I would have to take off work. I would probably just call in sick. And of course, this is before he died. I would probably just have to call in sick because I know my supervisor would not be able to understand me mourning for someone I don't personally know. Vicki, I can still remember the first time I saw him. I was 6 years old. I couldn't sleep, so I went into the living room where my mom was watching television. When I saw him, she disappeared. He was seated at this huge black grand baby piano, wearing a pair of dark sunglasses, a black tuxedo with a crisp white shirt and bow tie. The spotlight centered on him, and he was singing, I Can't Stop Loving You. His voice was like the croaking of a bullfrog begging for love, like running honey, at the same time. It was gravel and sugar, babies' first kisses on their mama's cheeks, full stomachs and empty hearts. I heard all those things in his song. He rocked and reeled from side to side in a manner that tempted gravity. I stood still, holding my breath, thinking that if I moved, he would fall. He rocked all the way to one side of the stool and all the way to the other side of the stool. At several points, he seemed unnaturally close to the edge of the stool, yet for some reason, he didn't fall off. There was a strange connection between him, the stool, and gravity, an intelligent interaction of movement and placement. I asked my mother why he wore the dark glasses, and she told me he was blind. Blindness was a concept I couldn't understand. My world was very small. The people who lived in my world was all healthy. I asked her why couldn't he see. She tried to explain to me that some people are born blind and other people go blind for one reason or the other. She also told me that some things are unexplainable. What about God? I asked. Surely God could do anything. Surely God could make Ray Charles see. She admitted that God could perform miracles. When I went to bed that night, I cried. I felt Ray Charles was singing sad songs because he was blind. I asked God to take my eyesight and give it to Ray. As a 6-year-old, I had no idea that I didn't have to trade my eyesight for God to restore Ray's. I hadn't even started to witness God's miracle and power. Over the years, my love for his music replaced the pity. His music was with me when I came to the dark spots of my life that kept me from seeing. I listened to the pain in his music, and somehow, some way, it got me to the other side of those doors. I came to understand his music. I came to understand the wisdom and the blues he sang about. Ray captures a depth and range of darkness in his lyrics and music like no one else can. There is something joyful in the hurt he moans about. I know that sounds strange, Miss Vick, but let me explain it another way. Mathematical law tells us that when you multiply two negatives, you get a positive. No one has ever been able to explain that to me in practical terms. I do know it has something to do with movement. Like with the blues, the depth of pain can be so dark that after a certain point, it can only get light. It is a moment that the light breaks. It is a moment of the mystery. Think about it like a broken heart, Vicky. When your heart is broken, you go into a black space in your mind and heart to hide a while. This is the other side of the joy you felt when you were in love and everything was all right. You mourn a number of days, maybe even months. Then you wake up one morning and everything is okay. You notice a ray of sunlight slant across your forearm from a crack in the blinds. You notice that sparrows don't hop, they dance. You notice the rich smell of coffee perking in the pot. You don't remember the moment, but at some point you are well. Just like the two negatives multiplying out to a positive, it becomes positive, but you can't explain how or when. This is what used to happen to me when I was down and listened to his music. I would get in the darkness with him, and then at some point, he would deliver me to the other side. I went to see Ray Charles at the Civic Center in Savannah several years ago. He was about 70. When he opened with his first song, his voice was raw and craggy. His rhythm seemed off. My heart dropped. I saw a talent dying as I sat there. It brought to mind the time I saw Muhammad Ali fight. I should say, when I saw him get the crap beat out of him like a slow witted doughboy. Ali had lost his youth and his strength. He paid for it that night in a humiliating public display of an aging man ignoring his age. Vic, all I could say is by the second song, it was obvious that Ray had not lost his voice. He had reached another level of perfection. I never heard him sing like he did that night. The man cut up Vic. At one point, he played some chords on his electric keyboard, and then he would answer in perfectly fluted, tender moans. He stood up and threw his head back toward the heavens like a wolf howling at a full moon. He beckoned and called to someone or something. He would play a sweet little chord, then he mocked it perfectly with tender moans, and then the response came. A tender, clear response, sweeter than a master flutist and higher than a harmonious trio of trumpet players blowing in one accord. The answer was gentle currents flowing down a river bank. It was a moment of delivery for mother and child. It was the leveling of an eagle's flight. The response was the sound of perfection. I looked I looked around the audience. There was a young white woman with tears running down her face. She had heard too. I sat there listening to heaven sing to Ray, and I knew I was in another world. After the show, I asked the usher if Ray was receiving guests backstage. I was pleasantly surprised when he said yes. I stood at the back door with my husband trembling. I thought about what I would say to him. Ray, I loved you. No, that wasn't true. I loved his music. I loved how his music makes me feel. Or maybe I could say, Ray Charles, you're a genius. I knew that would be void of any real meaning because the word has been used so much in association with him. Or I told myself I would tell him, Ray, your music saved me when I didn't want to go on. There is something in your blues that guides me. Your songs have been a father's voice, a mother's touch, a fresh baked apple pie, a comforting couch, and an amen thought. No, that would be too sappy. The other thing that stopped me from going in was that I had read he could be lecherous with women. I didn't want what was to be pure to me to be tainted by the reality of the man. I stood by the door behind the stage, struggling with wanting to go in and not wanting to go in. I knew that this would be the last opportunity I would have to be able to see him one on one. Dreams I have had since childhood played out in my mind. I would talk to him about him and his stool. I would let him know that when his music contains comfort, he rocks from side to side in a gentle type of way. When he is consumed with joy, the rocking is more emphatic, like a sailor when his boat is in choppy waters, not violent enough to be a threat, but wild enough to get caught up in the rapture of nature. When he reels so far to the edge of his stool that he meets the edge of gravity, it is in this place on that stool that is synonymous with life's risk. I would tell him that I know it is there that he doesn't dare to linger. He dallies at this spot so briefly, it is like a puff of wind. This is where he teases hell in low guttural calls. This is where he cheats gravities. This is where the place where the blues live. Not the everyday blues, but a part of Ray's genius is that he does not deal with everyday blues. He deals with the depth of pain. He sits at the outskirts and the desolations, but doesn't wallow there because he knows it is more than one man can bear. He flirts with Satan's angels, and if you can hear, they flirt back. I would tell him that I can hear his trip as he leaves the edge of the devil's haunts, and without notice, his crescendo zooms like a rocket journey from despair to joy. He stands as he climbs a mountain and is at the top, at that clear plateau. This is where he sings to and sometimes with God. I would tell him how I prayed that first night for God to take my eyesight and give it to him. Then I reneged on the prayer when I realized how serious blindness was. We would share a chuckle about my selfishness. He would invite me to sit down with him on the stool. He would play some sweet chords for me and to me. I would answer with a hum and a melodic moan. He would understand the raw imperfections in my voice that no one else ever has and hear them as untapped genius. And we would sing together in the perfect and harmony that is a part of blues life.
Amazing, Susan. Thank you. I am so glad that we got your audio working well. So we did not miss that.
Thank you.
Wonderful, yeah.
Okay, I will share my poem and then we will move on to the featured writer. So this poem is titled There's No Bull in Back Issues of Bon Appetit. She said, grits, I hate 'em. The woman whose battered copies of Bon Appetit magazine were just that, battered. The dog-eared pages of juice cum wine-stained publications stacked on bookshelves with the most favored recipes floating to the top of the pile. Classic and contemporary dishes curated for cocktail parties and folded into family dinners alike. Presented to the table with pomp and circumstance ceremony. Cue Tchaikovsky's 1812 overture in the background on the hi-fi. The meager budgeted, eager to please daughter-in-law offered up to this Julia Child incarnate who ran her kitchen helping hands like US military KP duty. Hands that wanted to chop and dice and mince and squeeze fresh lemons for the finish. Grits, as in shrimp and grits. A Southern American staple, this military spouse learned to finesse doing time at duty stations in the Carolinas. An entree she supped on nightly, her first trip to the West Coast to San Diego. With one wave of her well-manicured hands sheltered inside Playtex rubber gloves, which went straight to each jump rope toned hip, striking an indignant pose, one expertly tweezed eyebrow raised and plainly stated, grits, I hate 'em, then properly went back to separating chicken wings into drums and flaps. Her doe-eyed son's wife crushed like the clove of garlic pulverized under the weight of the chef's knife for the teriyaki sauce. Nor could she stomach the texture of its semolina cousin, couscous. There's no bull in back issues of Bon Appetit. And I'm proud to say that that poem was just selected for the Pettigrew Review. So I am so humbled about
Yeah, it's
that.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
wonderful.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Okay, now I will shift gears. It is my pleasure to introduce Devreaux Baker and share her bio along with some praises. Devreaux Baker is a poet who lives on the Mendocino coast in Northern California. Her awards include the 2025 Willie Morris Award for Southern Poetry, 2024 Barbara Mandigo Kelly Peace Poetry Prize from the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, 2022 Fisher International Poetry Prize, 2019, oh goodness, hold on, my line. Okay, Barbara Mandigo Kelly Peace Poetry Prize, 2017 Joe Bovea Outermost National Poetry Prize, the 2014 Barbara Mandigo Kelly Peace Poetry Prize, the 2012 Hawaii Council on Humanities International Poetry Prize, the 2011 Penn Oakland Josephine Miles Poetry Award, and the 2010 Women's Global Leadership Poetry Prize. She is a fellow at the MacDowell Colony, the Hawthornden Castle, and the Helene Wurlitzer Foundation. Her published books of poetry include Hungry Ghosts, Out of the Bones of Earth, Red Willow People, Beyond the Circumstance of Sight, and Light at the Edge. She is the first poet laureate of Mendocino County. A couple of praises. Devreaux Baker's contemplation of the blues and its artists is beautifully achieved in her poem, Blue Requiem. Her readers are reminded of history and the many voices of its chorus. Susan Kinsolving, Judge, Willie Morris Award for Southern Poetry. A deep wisdom runs throughout Devreaux Baker's work, a reminder that we are not merely connected to nature, but that we are part of nature itself. Catherine Hastings, USA Today best-selling author. Welcome. We look forward to your reading and sharing, and please feel free to also share anything in your bio that we may have missed. So the mic is yours. Thank you.
My goodness, thank you so much. That was very nice. I apologize for putting everybody through having to sit through that's a long list. Anyway, I just wanted to say first how much I'm enjoying this and how incredibly inspiring it is for me to be here and listen to your work. And I also want to say a special thank you to Susan Madison for that poem. I actually I wrote down your line, being in darkness and delivered to the other side, because I feel like um, that is so often what we can all do with our work. I mean, if we try to create, whether it's with poetry or music or art, that whole thing of if sometimes being in darkness, but being able to deliver people to the other side if they can relate to it. And so thank you. That was all of your work was very inspiring. I think I will begin then with the poem that won the Willie Morris Award. And I also want to preface it by saying I am not a musician, but I am lucky enough to be married to a musician. And that means I have music in my house 24/7, which is a mixed blessing. However, I will say that this poem really came out of many talks with my husband about his inspiration. And so I just wanted to say thank you to him for that. Blue Requiem. Tonight, the sounds of my neighbor's bass guitar remind me that the blues come from some geography of the wandering spirit, like Odysseus, forever searching for the way home again. The journeys of body and soul always begin in unlikely places, from ancient deserts filled with the arc and curve of wartime flares or drumbeats of nomadic tribes, to baywater shacks of gumbo kings anxious to elevate lives with food and music way beyond hunger or pain. It is no surprise that the blues followed a crazy path from slave ships anchored in terrible southern harbors all the way to bars in Mississippi, Chicago, and New Orleans. It was in how Gertrude Ma Rainey resurrected the image of a woman losing her man, and Bessie Smith became the undisputed empress of all Delta blues, teaching us that sorrow always holds hands with love. The Reverend Gary Davis moved gods and goddesses that slept inside the temple of our bones to shake loose lashes of lightning in the form and shape of dance moves that exhilarated the soul and set us free to traverse the sweet corridors of flight over and over again. Blind Lemon Jefferson strummed notes that rose and fell on wings of desire until all of us came to believe there was going to be light at the end of that blind man's tunnel. Robert Johnson stood at the crossroads and called to all of us to shake free of whatever binds a soul and move outside the confines of a life to touch the splendid body of a morning that night had spent hours undressing. When I walk down to the blowhole that sits at the edge of the ocean and listen to the rise and fall of waves that signal a new day, I hear a background of blues snaking its rhythms past slavery's chains and alcohol-fueled visions. I move into the realm of blood, sweat, and tears of future generations that gives birth to an elemental jive, a smoky infusion, beginning and ending in some feast of notes where we all sit down together, loosen our clothes, and feel the ship dock in that lonesome harbor. This must be how the blues resurrects the misbegotten, forgotten, disappeared, and abandoned heartache that resides in our terrain of ghosts, the place for marginalized voices to gather with their sheet music for the newly risen, so that choral reckoning we've been waiting for all our lives can finally happen. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Body of the beloved. The morning the roof caught on fire, we were not speaking. I forget now what happened. It could have been a tone of voice that made me think I was drowning. It could have been a hell resentment entering me like something familiar, rising in dark water, swelling higher and higher until all my seasons were storms and I was a hurricane. For whatever reason, when the house caught on fire, we were not speaking until I heard you call my name, saw the flames roaring up from the roof and call 911. But the wait for the fire department was too long. You and your son climbed that roof and put out the fire. I watched you standing up there, mythic in all that smoke, and thought how it only took the damn house bursting into flame to make me swear I was done with small things that could never match the sight of your body stepping out of smoke and fire, clothes black with ash, hands burned. When you climbed back down, I looked at your face and I saw you as though for the first time. I felt you in me like a great thirst and knew this is our meeting place, beyond measurement, beyond beauty and terror, where blood loves the way of veins and darkness becomes light, where there are no road signs and ghost deer drift with smoking hooves. This is the crossroads where we meet face to face, and I say, I can bear this life full of constant returning from the edge of despair or disaster if you were there, waiting, where living is all we want. And I am stunned with the lips and hands, eyes and fingers, arms, legs, and heart of the body of my beloved once again.
Mm, yes, that's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Um, I'm going to put a poem in here about the war, escape into the unknown.
Mm.
In the war tunnel, you sit with your back pressing out a landscape of fear into brick and mortar. Just outside, light is wavering on the horizon, unsure if it's safe to flood this terrain. Two dogs slowly cross the idea of what once was a street and walk across a field of broken buildings headed someplace else. They've joined the tribe of those escaping to the unknown where there are no longer beds or chairs, refrigerators, or running water. You hold on to a kitchen in your mind, smooth stone floors, cabinets your grandfather built with bare hands, leveling the wood, smoothing and shaving, humming a song that embedded notes into the shape of drawers and doors, countertops and hinges. You carry his song tucked into the cabinet in the corner of the kitchen you've saved inside your mind. In the evening, blue light drifts through this room, and you whisper the word twilight that comes and goes now as a moment held inside you, along with the small sounds of women preparing an evening meal. You hear their laughter that rises and falls in this place you are holding on to. There's the smell of rosemary and sumac, ginger and bay laurel. You sit in the war tunnel, escaping the broken dream of your life by conjuring the kitchen of your grandmother's house, mouthing words of hope, creating a landscape of the known world to carry with you on your escape into the unknown. Thank you. And I I write a lot about family. I write a lot about my childhood. I write a lot about my grandmother. My grandmother partially raised me and very important person in my life. Anyway, my grandmother's mentioned in this next poem. It's called Incantation for a Leopard Print Bathing Suit. I try on the strapless bathing suit, leopard print, tucks up the front. I open the top part and step down in. I am sinking into my mother's body, her wide pelvis, her strong hips, giving birth to 8 children. One by one, they slip through my body, that is her body, that is a healing for our sharing. This is her life I am swallowing the bones of. I am pulling a leopard print bathing suit up the tops of my legs past my grandmother's dreams, her house, her field, her sorrows, her loves. We are together. She is slipping her body inside mine. We are bending low to step into a great grandmother's house, to build a fire, to cook food. We are drinking water from an ancestor's well. I am pulling the suit up past my waist. My waist is a curving bowl, a widening river, tributaries of my women. We are diving in. We are swimming fast. We are moving like rain. I am learning the spells. I am dreaming. I am receiving. We are gathering our bodies, crouching in the forest of my body, while I am pulling a leopard print strapless bathing suit up past my ribs, past fear, past sorrow, threading the needle, slipping out the portal. This is desire. This is rage. This is hopeless. This is hopeful. This is the gift I am pulling up and over our breasts, loving life. We are throwing back covers, joining hands with the dead and the unborn. I'm carrying them all with me. We are walking through the rooms of my house. We are dancing. We are wearing a leopard print strapless bathing suit into this day that together we are all jumping into.
That was wonderful.
That's fabulous.
That was wonderful. Absolutely.
Thank you. And couple more. This just happened to me, so I'm going to share it. I was the designated driver. I live in Northern California and right on the coast, and it's a very rural town that I live in. And so when you want to go anyplace, you have to drive all these long distances. And I had two of my women friends with me, and I was driving them down to a poetry reading in another town, and it's right on the coast, so we're curving in and out. Anyway, this is called Deer Magic. I hit the deer just before midnight on the long stretch north of Point Arena. She jumped straight off a hill in front of my car, determined to commit deer suicide. And I don't know what it was that forced her beyond the two stags left standing behind. It was the rutting season, and maybe she had enough of antlers thrusting against her backside. But one moment the highway was an empty terrain, and the next she was diving under my wheels, eyes wide open. That must have been when her spirit decided to hitch a ride for a while with us, because one of my friends in the back seat said, "What about the deer?" I tightened my grip on the wheel and kept my eyes on the road. And then the other friend said, "Well, I pulled over when I hit a deer. I grabbed her hind legs and I dragged her to a safe spot off the road. I sat by her side with my hand on her neck, feeling the great rush of life flow up from her legs into her throat. I sat with her until she died." Deer magic was heavy in the darkness of my car, heavy in the hills on either side of the road. I kept trying to imagine pulling over close to midnight on that long stretch, famous for the demise of multitudes, famous for being the area so many locals have spotted flying saucers in, famous for the sand dunes with her memories of acid-laced parties. And I decided our words had formed a blessing on that deer's passing. I let her wandering spirit go then, out the windows of my car. I could imagine her leaping up into the night sky, becoming a constellation born out of unexpected roadside encounters, making her home now somewhere near the belt of Orion or the forgiving nature of the North Star. And should I read one more? Thank you. Okay, um, I'll read one more. It's called The Morning We First Met. You like to tell the story how you won me over, not with flowers, although you're good at flowers, Not with those tiny foil stars you filled an envelope with and left in the front seat of my car. So when I got off work hot and tired, exhausted from teaching all day, I could open an unmarked envelope and spill hundreds of shiny red or gold stars across my lap. No, you like to say it was because you offered me a place to take a shower. It was the rainy season, and I had been without power for 2 weeks, washing my privates, as my mother and her sisters would say, in a bowl of water I heated on the stove, and keeping a basket full of dirty laundry in the back seat of my car whenever I went to town in hopes soon the power at the laundromat would also be restored. We said hello standing in line at the local grocery, and when I told you I was one of the ones whose power was still not on, you invited me to do laundry at your place and said I could also take a shower since I was already going to be there. I remember following your car up the long hill that led to a single dad's house, bikes in the yard, basketball hoop in the driveway, wondering what I was doing going to your house for a shower. But 2 weeks without power, and you find yourself gladly accepting someone's offer of hot water. You gave me a clean towel. You had coffee ready when I finished, and we sat in your living room, a little breathless. Afternoon sun was letting me know it was soon going to be time to go. The part of the story I like to tell is the part where I knew this was going to be the beginning of something extraordinary. I remember feeling a small twirling somewhere inside my chest. That movement inside my body, like a crazy dancer, was the damnedest thing. Something jumping around inside me like that. While I sat, trying not to look too long into your eyes, concentrating as best I could on sipping your coffee in a dark blue cup. Thank you. Thank you all very much for having me.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much. Does anyone have a quick question for Devreaux?
Tell us where we can get your books, Devreaux.
Thank you.
Oh, I forgot to say, I have a new book. It's going to be released in another couple of weeks, and it is titled Blue Requiem. And it has the title poem Blue Requiem in it. So I'm just thrilled that that book is coming out. And my publisher is in San Francisco, and that is Wild Ocean Press. So you can actually look up Wild Ocean Press, or you could send me an email. I've got books here, and I'm happy to send them out. So I don't know if my email is there, but it's dbaker@mcn.org. And, you know, and then the new book, that book will be on Amazon. Blue Requiem will be on Amazon. And so shout out to the Oxford Conference for that.
Awesome. Congratulations. That is marvelous.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you so, so much for reading. Was an absolute joy to sit and listen to you. It's your work is very soulful and raw. And do you know what an empath is?
What an impact.
Empath.
Yes.
Are you an empath?
Well, good question. I
Well, I'll tell you the reason why I asked that poem on war, unless you have experienced war, and I haven't, but it sounded to me as if you were able to put yourself in their mindset. And that's so rare for anyone who hasn't experienced something what has to be so earth-shattering. And thank you for sharing that. It reminds me, and I think other people, how fortunate we are to right now not be in a war-torn country. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. That so deeply touches me for you to say that. And yes, I feel that we are very lucky to live the lives we live, even with our challenges. All of us have challenges, but yes. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a quick
One
question.
more? Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
I love your poetry, Devreaux, and thank you so much for sharing it with us. But your poem about the leopard bathing suit in your generations of women and the grandmothers, I just wonder how if you have anything to say about how that evolved. What was the spark of that creative process?
That was
all
creative.
right. Well, let me just be really honest here and go back to the very beginning. My daughter wanted me to take a trip with her, and we were going to go swimming. And I said, "Oh, I need a new swimsuit." And she said, "Oh, Mom, I have just a thing for you." And she gives me this strapless leopard print swimsuit, and I'm going, "Ah, you expect me strapless? That's not me." So, but anyway, I start trying to pull this thing up, and I'm pulling it up, and as it's coming up, for some reason, and I do not know why, but it was as though I was also pulling up layers. I just suddenly went into this other place as I'm pulling it up, and I'm actually feeling this very visceral thing against my skin, and I'm pulling up. It was as though I was pulling off layers and pulling up layers, and it was all layers about the women in my life. And for me, the women in my life have been very, very, very powerful presences. Um, uh, so, I that's where that poem began, and then I sat down with it, and it just kind of flowed out. And then, of course, I had to go back and tweak and
Yeah.
do whatever. But the initial thing really came from that visceral feeling of suddenly
Wonderful.
layers.
Thank you for sharing that. That's well, it really comes across to all of your the texture of the body imagery along with the emotions and
Oh, good,
memories and feelings. I love that.
good. Thank you.
Emily, did you have a comment or I see you're off mute. I just wanted to
Oh
check.
yeah, I wanted to like Jackie, I was really just swept away by that poem, many of your poems, and was wondering about like your creative process as well, just in general. Um,
I'm sorry, you're wondering about what?
what's your creative process in general? Is it like, do you write daily? Do you try to draw from, it seems like you draw from your own life experience, but
I do write daily. Uh, I don't have a definite time when I sit down, but I will say that for me, it seems to be the two times in where I feel the creative portal opens for me is first thing in the morning. I am always the first one awake and up, and I just treasure that moment when the house is completely sleeping and I tiptoe around with my coffee and then sit, and it seems like, and then um, many times I'll just start with nothing in mind, but knowing that I'm going to be writing. And maybe I start with a word and I'll just start a line. And then as doing that opens up the portal somehow for me for whatever else is there that's going to come through. And at the other time that's good for me can be late at night, also when when everyone else is asleep. Um, and um, and I will share, I had a very funny experience. I would love to know if you all have had this before, because I was trying to sleep. This hasn't happened often. Maybe it's happened, I don't just a few times, but it was so strong. It happened last week. I was trying to sleep. I had been asleep. I woke up, and then the words from, you're shaking your head. Yes, these words are coming in, and I'm going like, I just want to sleep.
Mm.
And I kept trying to lie there. I kept trying to sleep. I kept trying to ignore it. And then I couldn't. So I had to turn the light on and just, and write it out. And then of course I was exhausted the next day. I was a zombie. But I kept asking my husband, what do you think it is about a poet's brain that sometimes those words just why does that happen to us? He didn't know. He just but I find it fascinating, how we can have that happen.
I believe that's God. And he's waking you up in the middle of the night, downloading. He gives us downloads. See, he can't speak to us throughout the day because it's so much going on. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, and those hours, those are the midnight hours. Those are the hours our great grandmothers used to be up on. So we just the new age generation that we gotta get hip to the midnight hours, honey.
That's
And
right.
those are downloads. I get those too. I don't from 3 to like 6:30ish. I am wide awake. I'm writing poems. I'm writing books. I'm designing new clothes. God just downloads me in the middle of the night. And
Yes.
he does that to his chosen children. And I'm not saying other people are not chosen. We're all chosen in our own different areas and purposes and destined for our own purpose in life. But artists like us, I feel like he does download in the middle of the night. And most of the time, those downloads, just like you right now, got you into a million achievements, a million awards, because that's God downloaded. He's giving it to you.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for saying that. And I also want to tell you the title of that poem I ended up writing was called In the Midnight House. And
Oh.
and that's the title, In the Midnight House, because there I was.
God clocked it. Yes.
Oh my goodness, y'all. I am so inspired. I want to thank you all for bringing your work to the mic tonight. Thank you so, so much for being here. Devreaux Baker, brilliant. Thank you. And congratulations on all of your stellar work. I hope that y'all will come back to the virtual mic. And if you're able to next month, be at the Pat Conroy Literary Center for the in-person open mic. And just a couple of highlights to share on the Pat Conroy Literary Center calendar. There is the Silent Book Club of Beaufort, and monthly a teddy bear picnic reading at the Port Royal Farmers Market. So please check the Pat Conroy Literary Center website and social media channels for more information on the numerous workshops and capstone events that they host. And again, thank you and good night.
Melissa, I know you're saying good night, but if I could just throw in,
Oh,
I'm
sure.
also, I've launched a poetry group. It's not a workshop, it's a poetry group, and it's free and open. It is co-sponsored by the Literary Center and the Poetry Society of South Carolina. But you don't have to be a member. It's inclusive, and just it'll be the 16th, this coming Sunday at 2:00 at the Pat Conroy Literary Center.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that. I appreciate
Okay,
that.
sorry I didn't do it earlier.
That's okay. That's all right. Perfect. Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Devreaux.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Really, really great work.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.